Welcome back. Who really has the upper hand as Pakistan's army continues to battle Taliban militants? And what is the cost to the civilians caught in between? From Princeton, I'm joined by Zia Mian, Director of the Project on Peace and Security in South Asia at the Program on Science and Global Security at Princeton University. His research focuses on nuclear energy policy in the region, along with issues of nuclear disarmament and peace. Here in the studio with me is Nicholas Schmidl, a fellow at the New America Foundation. He reported for 2 years from Pakistan and wrote extensively about his experiences in a new book, To Live or to Perish Forever, 2 Tumultuous Years in Pakistan. Now, during the break, as I mentioned, we took a poll in our chat room where we asked you to respond to the question, is there a real danger of militants gaining control of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal? Here are the results. 16% of you said highly likely, 40% of you said possibly, and 44% of you said it's very unlikely that they'll get control of those weapons. Let's get back to our discussion, and let's get a question actually from our chat room, which live station, which has been running on air as we've been doing the show as well. And perhaps I could ask Dr. Mian a chat room question from Sunny in London, who says, why have the activities in Swat Valley gone unchecked for so long?
I think that the reason why Pakistan's government was so slow to respond to what happened in Swat is the same reason that they were so slow to respond to what happened in Waziristan and so slow to respond to what happened with the Red Mosque incident in Islamabad in 2007. And that's because the people who make decisions in Pakistan suffer from the illusion of their own power. They think that they can manage these kinds of things easily, and so things grow and spiral out of control, and then by the time they realize how serious things have become, then it needs a massive response to deal with the situation, basically because they let it get out of control.
Alpha is in Kuwait on the line. Go ahead, Alpha. What would you like to ask?
Yes, I am a civilian American living in Kuwait, but what I see right here in Arab world, I've been to Qatar, I've been to Bahrain, I've been to Dubai, I've been to Iraq, I'm here now in Kuwait. But what I see the American Muslim congregation is not really doing enough to educate the Muslim world what America is really about.
Okay.
The freedom that Muslims have in America, I don't see no other place else. I've been in Europe, I've been some other places.
Alpha, that's an interesting point. And Nicholas, that's true. You know, life here, the image of Islam has been pretty negative. Perhaps that'll change under the new administration. But to what extent do you feel that there's a failing in America to educate the people here about the true values of the Muslim world? You know them a little more up close.
I feel like that's been a shortcoming. I feel like the other shortcoming has been the quote-unquote public diplomacy in the Muslim world. Right now, in Swat, in the areas around Swat, where there are all these hundreds of thousands, upwards of millions of refugees, the U.S. and the Pakistani government have a golden opportunity, because eventually these people are all going to go home. And the Pakistani army is going to retreat. They're going to achieve strategic or tactical success. They're going to retreat. These people are going to go home, and eventually the Taliban are going to come back down from the hills. And the only way that the government can sustain and defeat the Taliban is by convincing these locals who are going back home that we messed up the first time, we've got your back the second time. And the U.S. can be there helping there. Right now, in fact, rather than doing that, we've got humanitarian wings of Lashkar-e-Taiba that are there giving out funds, giving out food, etc. So
they're seen as saviors. In fact, I know you've said that one of the biggest failings is that Pakistan as a country, or as the government, has never sold the concept of a united Pakistan to these remote regions, who then become autonomous, or they can see the value of their autonomy.
Totally. I mean, this is when you're traveling around Pakistan and you ask people how do they identify themselves, they identify themselves as Pakistani third, fourth, or fifth in the tier. You know, after clan, after tribe, after sect, and after ethnicity. So these are all. I mean, these are issues that I think are affecting the structural integrity of Pakistan going forward, and will remain for some time.
Well, Adele's on the line from Qatar. It's good to hear from Qatar. Adele, what would you like to ask us?
First of all, a very big hello, and I've got a point to make clear that I've been really surprised hearing Mr. Zia Mian regarding his idea about who Taliban are. Basically, first thing is, to my idea, these are not Pakistanis. These are a very huge group of Chechens and maybe Indian-backed militants who have been previously known as Mujahideens, and it was on TV, it was said by Hillary Clinton a few days back that these were Mujahideens, yes, and they were made by Americans, and now, since the Americans have won the war, against Russia. So these Mujahideen have become Taliban.
Okay, let's put that to Dr. Mian then. I mean, let's respond to that. The idea from Adel, who says that basically that there is this mishmash of people that form up this group that is not, as you put it, Pakistanis who've taken on this ideology.
Well, it's correct that during the Afghan war there were Taliban from Islamist fighters from a number of countries which the United States and Pakistan and Saudi Arabia helped bring to fight against the Soviet Union. After that war was over, most of them went home, and you saw the rise of similar kinds of groups in all of those countries. But when it comes to the Pakistan Taliban, you take the people in the Swat Valley, for example, or the people in Waziristan, they are led by Pakistanis. I mean, people like Baitullah Masood and Fazlullah in Swat are Pakistanis. Most of their leadership is Pakistani, and most of their fighters are Pakistani. There may be a few Afghans, and there may be a few other people, but they are minor in comparison to the scale of the Pakistani participation in this. But there's a more important point to be made here, and that is the fact that the Pakistani state has always dealt very badly with insurgency and counterinsurgency. The Balochistan uprising in 1973 was crushed in exactly the same kind of way that Pakistan is now trying to deal with the Taliban, with a massive use of force. That insurgency has resurfaced over and over again in the last 30 years. And Nicholas is right that unless Pakistan makes a determined effort to solve the political problems that are underlying this insurgency in the Northwest Frontier Province, in the tribal areas and elsewhere in Pakistan, this problem will not go away, and you can't sort it by killing people.
Nicholas Schmidl, that's an interesting point. When you look at the situation, the makeup, you have Benazir Bhutto, of course, assassinated. Her husband, Asif Ali Zardari, is there in power. A lot of people are wondering whether he's got a future. Nawaz Sharif, do you think he has a chance? I mean, it's...
Well, Nawaz Sharif is by far the most popular politician in the country right now. I think that according to some recent polling data, President Zardari's approval rating is around 19%. It's very hard to get the country on board to wage a sustained counterinsurgency with a 19% approval rating. The problem is, and this gets back to the caller's point earlier, if Nawaz Sharif comes to power, because of the heavy amount of American involvement in Pakistani politics, that will immediately start making his star fall. And so how does the U.S. support Nawaz Sharif or support whoever is in power, if President Zardari can rediscover his popularity, without having their hands all over that individual and making that individual look like an American puppet?
Quick, just 30 seconds to go. Do you feel, Nicholas, that unless the situation in Afghanistan and Pakistan is dealt with in a joint way, that both these countries have very little chance of stabilizing?
I do think, but I think that Pakistan has to be first. I think the stakes in Pakistan are much higher, and the possibility of failure is much more severe in Pakistan.
Do you feel it's being given enough attention by the new administration here in the U.S.?
I do. I think it's a very welcome shift of attention, and I think it is being given.
Grouping it as a region as opposed to...
Exactly. And the attention that Pakistan's gotten overall, as an individual country even.
Well, Nicholas Schmidl and Dr. Zia Mian, thank you very much for joining us as well.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Riz.
Cheers, thank you. And thank you for being with us with your questions. On the next show, Lebanon heads to the polls later this month in an election being fought by the March 14th Alliance and Hezbollah, who are looking to make significant political gains in this time around the polling. We'll take a look at the issues and the implications. Of course, we welcome your questions. From me and the team, we'll see you next time.